Hi, my name is Joshua Awesome, and I am the author of Less is More, Living Lean and Working Deep. What if the path to greater meaning, freedom, and joy is not found in having more, but in needing less? In Less is More, I share how I built a life of global impact while living with far fewer resources than most people would consider possible. For more than a decade, I intentionally stepped away from conventional measures of success and reoriented my life around service, alignment, and purpose rather than accumulation. Over this time, I have lived on about $22,000 a year and supported hundreds of nonprofits and businesses around the world. Not from a place of scarcity, but from alignment. This is not a rigid book on minimalism. This book is far less about possessions than it is about attention, energy, and values. What makes my approach different is not a lack of possessions, but how conscientiously I choose what stays in my life. It's a daily practice of keeping what is genuinely useful or meaningful, whether it is a possession, relationship, or inner narrative, and returning to a simple guiding question applied to every area of my life. Does this truly serve me or the world I want to help build? If not, it should be released. Through more than 50 short, accessible chapters, I weave together lived experiences, relationships, spirituality, and simple living, exploring love and boundaries, burnout and service, intuition and trauma, money and meaning, and why the relentless pursuit for more so often leads to disconnection. Within the pages are a sincere, sometimes messy, often human invitation to rethink what a meaningful life can look like. This book opens a door to a way of living where we trade accumulation for intention and discover that when we stop needing more, we finally have enough. Now a bit about my journey. I had no intentions on writing this book. The tools within it grew out of trying to live in a world that often felt misaligned with what I had been taught mattered. I grew up primarily with my mom in a spiritual community shaped by kindness, compassion, nonviolence, and care for all beings. As a kid, I assumed this way of living was normal. As I got older, that belief was challenged. I followed the path I was taught would lead to fulfillment, built a career, and accumulated the markers of success, yet felt increasingly disconnected. In the winter of 2015, I flipped the script and walked away from the high-paying corporate world because I wanted more time to serve. I had grown deeply disillusioned with how money shapes priorities, and I chose instead to focus my life on offering my skills pro bono to organizations doing meaningful work. My goal was simple: to become a full-time philanthropist by sharing my time and talents, building a better world through service rather than accumulation. Less is More is a book of questions, tools, and reflections meant to help people turn inward, trust themselves, and find their own way. Now, how did this book come to being? On one Monday morning last May, I was jolted awake far too early, as if something had flipped a switch inside myself. Words poured out of me. I spent that entire day in a half-awake state, writing and editing. I assumed it would end there. I really wanted a good night rest. It didn't. For weeks, which turned into months, I was repeatedly pulled awake between 3 and 5 in the morning, and the chapters kept coming. I wasn't planning a book. There was no outline. I had very little control over what was happening. What emerged were the tools and ways of seeing I had developed over a lifetime to survive this deeply confusing world while keeping love at the center of who I am. The writing felt less like something I was creating and more like something I was uncovering. At its core, Less is More explores what a valuable life can look like when we choose to loosen our grip on excess and expectation and choose intention instead. It's written as a kind of practical human guide. I wish I had when I was 15 to 20. Something to help make sense of a complicated world and navigate it with more clarity, heart, and self-trust. I hope you enjoy the book. Thank you.